It wasn't long ago Jays fans were calling for the firing of John Gibbons. Now a pitching staff filled with young talent and one of the most explosive lineups in the American League has renewed their faith in the Jays bench boss. Now their focus has shifted to how the front office will develop this team for the future. Here's our panel to break down what to expect from new management and how they'll work with Gibbons for the upcoming season.
Thank you so much. I'm here with Matt Cullen, Dalton Finkbeiner, and Khalil Hassan-Ali. Let's start with the biggest move the Jays made in the offseason, saying goodbye to Alex Anthopoulos. What does this mean for the Jays?
Well, Holly, Alex Anthopoulos brought a really unique approach to the GM position. He was very aggressive, and during his tenure with the Blue Jays, he made a ton of trades. He traded for Ari Dickey, he traded for Josh Donaldson, and he traded for Troy Tulowitzki. So I think Blue Jays fans especially are going to miss that aggressive approach in the front office.
Alex Anthopoulos came into the Blue Jays GM position in 2009, and he increased payroll by $51 million and only had one playoff appearance to show for it. Now you look at teams like the Orioles and the Pirates, they were able to do a lot more with a lot less. So you can't blame Rogers' management for wanting to make a change.
Now, speaking of change, there were a lot of questions around the status of John Gibbons. What were the Blue Jays going to do with him? But new management answered those questions very quickly and now has a new contract.
Well, speaking of Gibbons, the Blue Jays reworked his contract, eliminating the rollover clause in exchange for a bump in salary. Does this change things, though, for Gibbons? Is he still the right man for the job?
Yeah, absolutely he is. There's no change here, and this really isn't new. This is a reward for Gibbons. He has a chance now to go prove himself. If the Jays can get their hands on another AL East title or get them back in the playoffs again, that will go a long way for Gibbons in negotiating a new deal. Talking about leverage here. But if the Blue Jays miss the playoffs, that could be trouble, and Gibbons might not have a job.
He's really hedging a bet on himself that he will perform and earn a new contract with a management group that did inherit him. Now he's in a unique situation in Toronto where he's always criticized for moves that are deemed to be wrong, but he's never given enough credit for moves that are deemed to be right.
I think one of the reasons he is criticized is because of his laid-back approach to managing. Gibbons is more of a hands-off manager. There's a ton of personality on this Blue Jays team with Josh Donaldson, Jose Bautista, and Edwin Encarnacion. So I think his laid-back attitude is perfect for this ball club.
Okay, switching focus now to the front office. What's Shapiro and Atkins done so far in Toronto in their short time, and what can fans expect moving forward?
Well, Shapiro comes in with a lot of pedigree, two-time executive of the year. Now, they're not really clamoring to the fan base of Toronto, not signing Edwin Encarnacion and Jose Bautista as of yet, and they took an AL MVP and Josh Donaldson to arbitration. You don't see that very often.
Yeah, I think we're quickly seeing the different style of this managing group, and I think that is conservative. I don't think they're going to be involved in as many big-time deals as they were last year, so I think Jays fans can expect a lot less moves than last season.
But he has made a couple of moves so far. Again, shipping out Ben Revere for Drew Storen. I like the move. It gives the bullpen a ton more flexibility, and we may even see Aaron Sanchez start now. But I bet you guys, if the Blue Jays are in contention, we'll see a couple of moves made at the deadline.
Well, it's an exciting season ahead. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Back to you.
Toronto's acquisitions last summer came at a cost, mainly in the form of the franchise's future arms. So is the cupboard completely bare, or there's still a few surprises along the way? Insider Carlisle Fazette joins me now. Carlisle, last July the Jays traded away 10 pitching prospects. So is there any young talent left coming the way of the Jays in the future from the mound?
Yeah, well, Alex Anthopoulos didn't leave a whole lot in the cupboard when it comes to prospects, but one name to keep an eye on is Connor Green. He's the top pitching prospect the Jays have right now. He's got a 6'3", lanky build. If you add some muscle to that, he could challenge for a spot in the rotation a little bit down the road. During spring training, he was hitting upper 90s with his fastball. He's spent most of his time last year in Single-A and Double-A. This year, he'll be with Buffalo and Triple-A for the most part, but with injuries, there's always a chance we could see him at some point this season with the big club.
Who else do you think could make some steps towards joining the Jays in the near future?
Yeah, I think of a guy like Anthony Alford in the outfield. He was a third-round choice back in 2012 for the Blue Jays. He's got a lot of raw, freakish athletic ability, and that comes from years of him playing football. And if he gets that power into his game, he really could be seen as a realistic replacement for someone like Jose Bautista. He's a highly regarded prospect in terms of Baseball America's top 100. He's actually ranked number 25. He spent most of his time last year in Single-A and Double-A. He'll definitely get some looks at the Triple-A level in Buffalo this season.
The Jays' left side of the infield is as good as any in the majors, but management seems to be well aware of the fact that Tulowitzki and Donaldson are both on the other side of 30. They seem to have a bit of a contingency plan there too now, don't they?
Yeah, I think of a guy like Richard Urena as the heir apparent to shortstop Troy Tulowitzki, and that's actually coming from John Gibbons himself. He's an excellent defensive player. He's a switch hitter, although he is more powerful from the left side. Of his 16 home runs last year, 15 of them came from the left side of the plate. For a young player, he's patient, but he could work on just being a little bit more patient at the plate. That'll make him a bit more effective. And he was recently sent down, along with Alfred, to Single-A Dunedin, but I expect him to move up the ranks fairly quickly.
Thanks for doing this, Carlisle.
Thanks, Rodney.
When the Blue Jays made the move to Skydome in 1989, it was the most expensive stadium in the majors when construction costs reached nearly $600 million. A stadium in the heart of downtown with a retractable roof was about the best thing that fans could ask for. Now, the stadium's considered outdated, and despite numerous improvements to the artificial turf, it's still a contributing factor for injuries to Blue Jays players past and present. Mike DeCourcy deconstructs the improvements being made to the Rogers Center.
There is no sport more romanticized than the game of baseball. Imagine Wrigley, Fenway, and Yankee Stadium with AstroTurf. It's like a Warhol painting in the Sistine Chapel. Ever since the Blue Jays entered the MLB in 1977, the team has played its home games on AstroTurf, with dirt box cutouts around home plate and the bases called sliding pits. Multi-purpose stadiums were the rage in the 1970s and 80s. It started with Cincinnati's Riverfront Stadium in 1970. It changed the way the game was played, with more emphasis on speed. But it also took a toll on players' bodies. When the Jays moved from Exhibition Stadium to the Rogers Center in 1989, it was a huge step in what the team had been playing on for close to 12 years. Called the eighth wonder of the world, it was the gold standard. Shortly after, baseball no longer wanted to share their home with football teams and began constructing retro-style parks that were more intimate, not gigantic concrete structures. Soon, Toronto fans wanted the same, and at the top of the list was grass and a dirt infield. The problem was the Jays had a tenant, the Toronto Argonauts. With the Argos desiring a smaller venue for their product this upcoming season, the Jays saw their opening.
So we had that opportunity now where we know we can keep it into baseball mode for the baseball season. So it was this was really the only year that we could actually do this.
The traditional diamond shape wasn't the only change.
In the summer months when it's really hot, you have a situation where that clay dries out really quick. So one of the things we wanted to make sure is we had a good base to start with.
The next step is moving from field turf to natural grass. The Jays hope to have this surface in place by the 2018 season. With the team playing a portion of their games with the dome closed, the club has turned here to the University of Guelph to try and find a species that can grow in artificial light. After 40 years for Blue Jays fans, what's old is new. Isn't that romantic? From Guelph, Mike DeCourcy.
More Taking Flight coming up.